like we made merge in like 2 weeks, like the very basic piece.
Wow, like the first prototype.
Yeah, I mean, it was, our team is knowledgeable. It was really glued together from Unity assets, or code that they put together quickly. Like everything was glued together. I'll just put it that way, right? And the interesting thing is, if you finished all the content, the game would crash.
Games and Names Podcast.
Hey, welcome. Welcome to the 4th episode of Games and Names Podcast, a show where we talk about games and people in them. My name is Stan, I'm your usual host, and also VP of Product at AppMagic, an analytical service for analyzing mobile markets and providing actionable insights. Today in our virtual studio is my favorite co-host, Kroon.
Hello.
Yeah, looking good, man. Glad to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah. And a special guest, Arseny Lebedev, CEO and co-founder of Original Games. Arseny, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So if there is anything you want to share about Arseny, just feel free. That's your moment of fame.
Yeah, introduce yourself to us.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in games for a long time, since 2009. I was born in Russia, and I moved to the US when I was a little kid. And through my kind of more than 10-year career, I've been always involved in mobile, and at Original Games. We founded in 2020. We started with doing hyper casual, then we got into this merge genre that I'm really happy to be part of, and raised some money and growing ever since. A lot of interesting things going on, so I'm happy to talk to you guys about merge. I mean, the other thing that I always like to tell people that not many people know about me is like, I got into like nightclubs. I got into music, even though I'm not a music fan.
That's nice.
So I was a part owner in a couple clubs in Russia before Russia turned evil. But I mean, for me, it's less about the music. It's more about the artists. Speaking to those people and hanging out with them is really cool. So
Nice.
This is actually, Original Games is my 5th business, if you count those clubs.
Wow.
Wow, that's a lot.
So
You were also an entrepreneur in
yes,
nightlife.
I'm always an entrepreneur. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
nightlife,
Definitely.
there's no profit. It's all about, it's like just a safe place to hang out.
Experience. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll have a nice party of our own here on this call right now. Sorry for that absolutely terrible pun. Thanks for introducing yourself to us, Arseny. Just a quick word about myself. Like, as I introduced myself in the first time I was on the podcast with Stan, but I am a game designer based in London, working at Product Madness. I'm very excited to be part of this little crew today.
Nice. So, gentlemen, I think today we want to discuss merge games and everything around them. So, what are merge games? Why we talk about them? What is going on with the market? What are different variations like merge 2, merge 3, maybe some hybrids? What it takes to launch a successful merge 2 game? And here is Arseny experience will just shine the best. And of course, what are the genre's problems right now? Because it's not all about successes. And what is in the future for this niche? So that's the whole idea for the episode, of course. We might go in some side talks, that's totally fine. But in general, let's try to find out what the hell is merge and how to cook it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So let's start with that first question. So, Arseny, in your kind of perspective as someone who works deeply in this genre, can you kind of explain to us how merge came about and how it grew to be the serious contender that it is today?
I mean, I'm not the merge historian, right? Because I think it all started way earlier. And I'm sure there's some trolls out there that know all the secrets. But I mean, kind of everything started as merge 3, where it was an isometric kind of gameplay, and you would merge 2 or more, sometimes 3 or more objects on the board, and it was more like a decoration. So I'm thinking of like Spry Fox, like that was a merge game. What was it called? Town. Should have prepared that.
Maybe. I always thought that one of the first merge games, I mean, really successful and popular merge games was 2048. Because it just came out of nowhere.
Oh,
And it was really, well, I mean, the core mechanic itself.
And merging those two pieces
Yeah,
together.
so I'm talking about Triple Town. So like this goes back even to Triple Town, the mechanic, and probably even further. And there's old school games there. But I mean, we're talking about free to play, right? So kind of Merge Dragons was among the first really successful ones. Ever Merge is there. Those are Merge 3. But we looked at Merge 2, and we decided that we could probably do something with this because it's some ways similar to Match-3, very simple puzzle games with changing mechanics. And I mean that's how we kind of decided to take the plunge into doing a Merge 2 without a big meta game, and that's kind of our game Merge In. I mean, we can talk specifically more about Merge In, but the question is more about where did Merge come from. I mean, I think the idea is like, how do you do Match 3 without competing with Match 3? And that's why folks kind of went into Merge 2.
Yeah. So that was the main reason then. It's just kind of that Merge 3 space was really populated with these really big games, but Merge 2 seemed more attractive then.
Yeah. I mean, and it's if you think about it, and I'm sure a lot of companies, if they have the same kind of point of view as us, like small company, not a lot of resources. When we launched Merge In, we didn't have I was just funding the company myself. We were like, what do you do that's not going to take a lot of development time that we can iterate? Which is kind of the hyper casual thesis is you make a simple gameplay and then you grow it. And I remember when we started original games, that was always, and it still is the thesis, do simple. And then once something sticks, grow it. And we worked with several hyper casual publishers and they didn't believe that thesis. They just said, hey, make the gameplay, we'll monetize it with ads and then make a new gameplay. But so when we launched Merge In, the idea was like, we made Merge In like 2 weeks. Like the very basic piece.
Wow, like the first prototype.
Yeah, I mean, it was our team is knowledgeable. It was really glued together from Unity assets or code that they put together quickly. Like everything was glued together. I'll just put it that way, right? And the interesting thing is, if you finished all the content, the game would crash. So we saw a lot of people getting crashes on that first kind of cohort when we saw that like I think it was like level 25 was meant to not be finishable, and that's why the game crashed, but people finished it. So that was cool. That was a good signal to continue developing.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds like a good sign. If people just go right to the end, yeah, it is. I think that's a very good idea to look out for the genres that are pretty close to the most popular ones, like the Match-3 or Merge 3, but at the same time, it's red ocean there, and it's just suicidal to go there, especially with a small team. So it's very wise to explore the market.
I think it's more about the small team, right? I think it's like, I don't see these titans as, they can't be beaten just because of size. I think they can't be beaten because of resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because like their marketing budgets, they can basically buy out all the Merge 2 genre in whole. And that's the problem.
Yeah, we talked about it in episode 0, like with the example of Coin Master, for example. Moon Active just has so much money that any other looter that's trying to break into that market has a really hard time.
Don't discount live ops though. Moon Active has an incredible live ops culture, and if you just for the real eagles, just type in Moon Active monetization into LinkedIn. And I think you'll find more monetization managers than companies have employees. Not kissing asses, but Moon Active's monetization, I think, is the reason that they're able to succeed with Family Island and in their merge game as well, Travel Town. So it is about UA, but also just the amount of resources you can put on to optimize the game and continue optimizing the game.
So a little bit more about Merge In, about your game. We see this throughout Merge, whether it's Merge 2 or Merge 3, different kind of meta games coming in. And of course, Merge In has this cooking meta game. Can you speak a little bit about how you landed on that idea and why you went for this style of meta versus other styles.
Well, so actually, it's a good point. So everything in that game is very, very calculated. When we started, we were thinking, okay, let's do a puzzle game. What kind of puzzle game do you do? Well, there's a lot of puzzle games, so it has to look different. It has to look different. It has to kind of play different. But the thing with casual puzzle is it can't be completely different. So if you look at something like Dots, like I think that's the most visually different, the audio difference. That's the furthest you can go before it becomes niche. So with Merge In, we had several rules on what we wanted to do with the game. So the kind of number one is I wanted to have animal characters instead of people. And that's a big risk, right? Because that turns off a lot of people. But I think we did a good job. And I'll explain how I got there. We didn't want to have a deep meta. And we wanted it to be a merge game. So we did a bunch of art tests on Facebook. I think we had 9 different tests. It was theme tests and visuals, always with animals. And then, so the cooking one with this kind of Disney cartoony style was the one that just won based on kind of engagement on these campaigns. And cooking, if you guys follow casual, is kind of one of the principal themes. I thought for Merge, cooking would be awesome, right? Because there's just so many ingredients, there's so many dishes. And the idea was specifically to focus on cooking, not restaurant management, even though the game is called Merge In. Because you can have just like the food doesn't end.
For sure.
And I think one of the things that we do that's really good is like, if you're a hardcore player, the game has a lot of levels, and each episode introduces a new kitchen or a new set of foods. So we try really hard to be authentic for international cooking, and one of the things we try to do is like the deeper you get in that chain of items, the more crazy the item is, the more crazy the resulting tile is. So it might be a very complex Asian dish. And I really hope that some players will be like, I want to find out what this thing is and actually try it in real life.
Nice.
That's a cool motivation to kind of keep going. But I mean, I think one of the issues with a lot of these, a lot of the competitors is like the themes are boring. Like, how interesting can gardening be? How many freaking shovels are there?
Yeah.
So I think that's why we kind of stuck with
loving gardening and listen to us right now. Please just plug me in.
Please destroy me and leave bad reviews on Merge In. But it's like, I think it was kind of, to answer your question, it was like, what can we have endless content for where it won't be like the golden shovel, grandma's lost shovel, like that kind of thing.
It's very clever. It's very clever. I mean, what is cooking other than merging ingredients together? I'm talking in real life, right? And I kind of like that when art mirrors life in that sense. I don't know if that was any part of the motivation. I understand also the need to find that meta that can be truly endless. And I mean, well, food is, like you can at some point, even if you run out of real dishes, start making up your own,
But on the meta side, like I'm a big fan of the idea that you don't need to be building anything, you don't need to be decorating anything. So the bet was like, can we just make this a level based Merge 2 game where the point is the core gameplay, and then looking at things like Royal Match. There is a meta there. It's very, very simple. We have a very similar meta in another Merge game, Merge Them. But with Merge In, it was specifically, can we get away keeping that same retention without having really a meta? So the game has evolved where there's these kind of mini games that are just very short merge puzzles, and that's kind of also a piece of the meta. And we'll see where it goes. Maybe we will continue doing this kind of mini games, but they will maybe steer a bit away from the Merge 2 core. If you look at some successes other guys are having, sometimes putting in some kind of exploration mini game seems to be working.
Right. Interesting. So now you just kind of mentioned it. Nice segue to our next topic area, more the market. So what are we seeing out there in the merge space? So could you kind of describe your vision of what's happening in the niche right now? Like what's going on in the merge segment?
And look, this is purely my opinion. Please direct all hate towards me. I'm
Disclaimer.
fine.
Yeah.
No,
You can
absolutely.
email me.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think there's kind of three things going on, right? So, if you happen to have a lot of money because your mother company is one of the biggest game companies in the world, you can afford to spend on to buy your revenue forward, right? So you can buy 2 years forward. Not everyone can do that. If you're a publicly listed company, buying 4 years is impossible. 2 years is even tough. So that's kind of one direction. You can buy your way to the top. And, I'm not saying Merge Mansion is a bad game. I think it's a great game and what they're doing is interesting. We specifically didn't want to go that way, right? Because of differentiation. Maybe our third game will also have an isometric metagame. So then kind of there's guys like us that are, and again, I'm not saying we're anything special. I just love making games and I'm trying to innovate. We're trying to innovate. I think with Merge In, there's a lot of small things that we've done that others haven't done, and that's giving us success. We had a really good, I think this month we had a really good A/B test that we launched live that improved our metrics. So kind of like there's small companies that can afford to innovate, and then I think the third one is companies that are seeing that, okay, if we just clone this game very quickly, we can probably buy a bunch of market share, and we won't be leader, but we're happy just making revenue, because you can like margins. The margins can be pretty sexy depending on kind of your level of spend, so that's kind of the thing. It's like rich guys that are innovating, poor guys that are innovating, and then folks just spinning the numbers.
Like copycatting the best practices and trying to.
Yeah. And I think that's completely fine. And, if we had the finances, I think I would totally be doing that.
Yeah, pretty understandable. So with the Merge Mansion, I think you've just said it. So they're playing the long game and they have enough resources for that. But not all the companies out there they can think in the terms of 2 years, 3 years span, receiving money from their users for such a long time. It's really difficult. You can do that. And with the copycatting, with the last practice, so we had an episode with Yesa about cloning and this whole, when there is a successful game and then there is whole wave of clones coming up. And I think with merge games, it might be a little bit tricky because from the outside, they might seem very simple, just simple to copy. You just go out there. But from the inside, you have to have the good setting. You have to work with the balance. You have to work with the monetization. But by the way, you mentioned CoinMaster. I've heard, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it sounds at least realistic. So the guys there, they first began with building the monetization level, even without the gameplay, even without the game, just like the abstract bone level monetization. And after they received good success with that, they decided, okay, so what type of gameplay we can put upon that? And, well, it sounds pretty accurate based on the game and how it performs.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and sorry to interrupt, but I think the better phrasing there is you have a bunch of PhD economists that are saying, let's make an economic model like this. And then you have a bunch of game designers that are like, what the hell how do we make this work? And if, it worked, and look at the magic there. And again, all the egos, look up how many economists work at Moon Active.
Yeah, they that's their strategy, right? Get that expertise in those PhDs, and
give me those guys.
Right. I mean, look, like game economies are getting more and more sophisticated, more and more interesting, and they're generating huge sums of money. So it doesn't surprise me. It is a fun, like, for people who don't work in the game industry and don't have that knowledge, it's a fun cocktail party fact to pull out. It's like, oh, did you know that if you had an economics PhD, you'd definitely get a job in the games industry? I don't think people think about that.
Yes.
But okay, so you mentioned Merge Mansion and that asymmetric core meta that they have. Do you think that that's kind of like their secret sauce, or do they have something else going on in there that has really propelled them to their position?
Yeah, so I mean, and again, like I don't really know them very well, and they're all very tight-lipped. There's an interesting interview, Deconstructor Fun, with their top guys, and I'm sure you'll get zero data out of it. But I mean, Merge Mansion has kind of first player advantage. They have a financial advantage. They started doing celebrity ads for some reason. I used to work Machine Zone, where kind of I saw how good, having a hottie lady works, having a superstar, all of that, and that's all. Those people are all, those influencers are all picked by data. It's not just because somebody likes Arnold. So it's like Metacore has an incredibly powerful UA team. And then on the game side, I would argue that there were not many risks taken with the decision to do that kind of game. It's very straightforward. I will say that there's a lot of gardening tools and shovels and things, which I think is so boring, but I mean, the players love it. And then I think they figured out that if you layer a kind of mystery story here, that's going to appeal to some folks. Those have played the game early, that really wasn't part of it. And for a game that's about a mansion, that mansion only opened recently. But I mean, I think it's like luck was a big part of it, and as dumb as that sounds, it's like they managed to do enough safe stuff and enough kind of risky stuff that worked. On my position, it's like we just weren't. The timing wasn't good. I wanted to do something much riskier, and we're growing okay.
Yeah, nice. I mean, like, very different games, right? Very different approach to that meta. I think it's interesting that you mentioned that the mansion only opened recently, and that now they're kind of leaning into that mystery element more. This is a thing that I always have with games with these kinds of metas, is that there must be some kind of endpoint there. Like, are you going to solve the mystery one day, or are you going to run out of map, or is it just always going to be another cloudy area that's added just beyond the last cloudy area? And that's actually why I see some of the wisdom in your guys' approach with Merge In, and it's just every time a new kitchen, that you don't have to necessarily lean into that promise of more. It's just, you can just pull out of your hat.
Can we go in a little bit deeper on the game design piece?
Of course, yeah, would love to.
Sure, sure, yeah.
So
please,
I think what Metacore left kind of like in second priority, maybe in third priority, is kind of live ops. Because they're just, I mean, in the past year, they were just starting to do events and all that. And maybe I'm a dummy or something, but I don't think they updated their economy for the first several years. Like, it's, maybe it's so good that I missed it. But I have a sense that they've only been starting to optimize that recently. And if it's working, don't break it. So I think what I'm trying to kind of get into is like, to be super successful, to be able to compete with them, even with that budget, it's like, it's all about keeping players engaged. I think having another cloudy area is fine. What you need to not forget is that this is not Match-3, and you cannot just add more game mechanics. You have to understand that your players are there because they like exploration, they like achievements, and that's that's with the food. It's like, if you're really there about discovering new types of food, that's cool. We did a couple of things where, like, there's some items in the game that you have to spend like a month to unlock, like, these 4 items. We did that as an experiment, and there's literally people that are motivated to unlock these 4 items, and that kind of pointed us to the direction that, hey, there's people that are just interested in, like, filling up the collection, and that's motivation enough. Solving the mystery of grandma, I would argue that people don't give a shit. I think that they're more about building a cool garden, collecting stuff, and just having like a cozy time.
Right. I mean, to me, one of the big, like, I haven't worked in Merge, but when I play it and then try to evaluate these core games, seems to me a huge motivation is organization. Like, there's something really satisfying. I'm like, okay, I'll put my shovels in this corner, and I'll put my Whatever. I was playing lots of Love and Pies recently because I just find it a super charming game, and it's a it's a cool one with those like orders, that you have to fulfill. But there I had a really fun time having my drinks area and my food area on my merge board. I guess how do you kind of see that? Is that something that you don't really like think about too much when you're working in merge in, or is it something that you take for granted? I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on that side of the motivation?
One of the key problems with, and this is simple math, is one of the key problems with this is that board is finite, and of course, savvy players will organize. All the merge games have the same problem that if you have enough containers, the board will fill up fully, and there won't be any game space left. So everyone gives storage. We give storage. At some point, our season ends, so you have a brand new board to kind of not start over, but continue on. You can always go back, and then super savvy players realize that their storage it's shared. So you can actually move items between the boards. Sometimes I think some of them are blocked, but
was that intentional?
In any case,
was that intentional design, or was that the emergent realization because someone forgot to code in the line that the storage?
No. We spent. There were so many meetings about that. Like,
gotcha.
I'm cool. Like, no shared storage, and the team was like, no. There's a reason for this. People will do it, and I mean, what folks do is they may hog power-ups and stuff on the old board,
right?
But I mean, it's like, to your point, yes, there is an element of kind of resource management, and that's another thing that differs from Match-3. Match-3 does have a bit of resource management, but this is way different. This is like, you can sell those containers that to take up your board, but we're not. I mean, I'm not seeing a lot of players doing that, and that's ultimately the advanced strategies. You have to figure out, I'm not going to need these things anymore. I'm going to get rid of them. And then if you want to get them back, you have to kind of buy them back.
I think there are some games out there, like Trail Town, they just give you not just storage for the containers, but also storage for generators, because at some point you will have so many of them on the desk, so that you will have just to push them away.
We call generators containers. I hate using technical terms for casual games.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the, so like generator is such a technical thingy. Container is something you put food in.
Generator is a bit of a gamey word. It's like what game designers would call it. Like, it's technically, it is generating stuff. It's true.
Yeah. Or like spawners.
Yeah, spawner. Yeah, spawner. Only like real gamers could use those kind of words. Talking about Merge Mansion, we were just there a little bit. You mentioned in passing that they haven't done much for live ops. But yeah, what do you see as the role of live ops? If you think they're not doing enough, how do you see it as a?
So I think they are starting to, or at least, again, I don't really follow them closely, but when we were looking closely at them, we weren't seeing many live events, and we were just seeing live events repeating. And granted how much cash they have, I'm surprised that they don't have like 60 teams doing live ops like Moon Active. So, I mean, I look at live ops as a lot of there's like a lot of buckets, and I just did this Andreessen Horowitz speedrun accelerator thing, and part of that was like understanding really the full scope of live ops. So like, think about the segmentation of users. There's some people that are just really into the game and they're really happy to spend money, and for them the average $20 offer, it's like, if it's $50, they'll still buy it. Mm-hmm. So how do you groom those folks? How do you make them even happier? There's other players that will never pay, and it's like, well, how do you make them happy anyway? So that's one piece of live ops, and VIP management, again, I'm not a Moon Active kiss ass. These guys keep coming up, and they're really fun people anyway. But they have a huge VIP management team. I wish I could do that. So that's one piece, but also kind of engaging events. So you're grinding this core game for 2 years or whatever. There should be things that draw your attention for a limited period of time. If you're really interested, check it out. There's a little bit of time pressure. I don't think casual games should have heavy time pressure. I don't think casual games should be heavily competitive. But there's answers to everything, and that's actually something we're actively working on, and we've had a couple breakthroughs in at the end of May that are focused on these kind of time limited events. And actually, it's an interesting, and I don't know if I'm going too deep on game mechanics, but like, imagine you have a core game that's focused on cooking. If you have limited events, and you love gardening, you can do a gardening limited event. And I think that's kind of what we're doing with. I mean, and Metacore were among the first to do these live events for a Merge 2 game, and some of them are really funny. Like, I think they just didn't have time to draw the assets, so the assets were just like letters and numbers, but people were still playing.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's one of the first story events that appear in their game. But I mean, looking at the market right now, researching it, we, for example, stumble upon that the majority of the games have a very, very well, in the best scenarios, they lack good live ops, and it's surprising because some of the teams, they come from Match-3, they have a big experience. Even you mentioned it, Metacore with Merge Mansion. For the last year, they began the experiments. They began trying different live ops. Love and Pies, yes, you've mentioned it. For the long time, they've been running the same short events. Like, they've got these 2 weekend events. They keep shuffling, and that's all. And that's crazy because with the casual game, if you want a good LTV, if you want your players to stay in your game and be happy about it, you have to have a very wide live ops. And it's a great opportunity for coming up with some really cool game design ideas as well, from my point of view at least.
Dude, it's hard. And I think the copycat guys, I don't think they get it that, hey, this game will be made by 5 people, and we'll get up to spending $500,000 a month on it for a year. But you need a team like 4 times the size to do live ops, and you kind of looking at like Evermerge, like those games are pushing live ops. They have battle passes, things like that. But it's very difficult. It's very diverse kind of set of new levers, elastic levers that we like holiday events. We always get peak spend. But you can't use them too much, right? You got to do like a 2-week or 3-week window. It's also funny that how do you do holidays for like a global game, right? So you don't offend anyone.
Yeah, tricky.
It turns out Nintendo figured it out. So
really?
Nintendo's games, in a town game. Every game is a town game that I don't remember. They have these like. Instead
like
of St. Patrick,
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing?
Yeah, Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Animal Crossing has all of the Animal Crossing holidays are totally neutral. So instead of St. Patrick's Day, it's like Clover Day or something. It's a very good reference.
Definitely. I had it. I was playing quite a bit of Pokemon Unite when it first came out because I like MOBAs and I was interested in it, and I'm also a huge Pokemon fan. But they also have like a winter time. And everyone's wearing vaguely Santa-like outfits, but it's just never mentioned. And it's just called like Winter Bash or whatever. And everyone knows what you're referencing, but you never have to make a stand of like, this is what we want to project out to our players or something like that. I had a question about live ops and your approach to it. When it comes to like the mechanics of live ops, is this a process, and it's all right if this is like secret sauce that you don't want to share at all, but is this something that you guys just sit down in a brainstorm or are you going to that Facebook audience again that you did your like theme testing on and kind of asking there? Are you A/B testing? Like, what's kind of the process for finding out that?
I think
that nice live ops?
An interesting thing, and it's obvious, so I don't care if it's so. One of the things that's interesting is like hyper casual really taught studios that know how to do hyper casual that you can very quickly, within a week, drop like a half-finished piece of junk, and it may get engagement. And I think we probably did around 50 prototypes, and like some of them were just like, why are people playing this the third day? So one of the things we're kind of wrestling with, and given resources, I want to get to it, is if we're looking at different gameplays, why can't we just launch hyper casual games and see what the engagement is on the audiences that we're looking for, and then that would be the basis for a mini game. But on the other hand, why can't you just run that mini game in the live game, as an A/B test and see what the engagement is there? So like you can treat live ops elements as just separate prototypes, looking at them from a hyper casual point of view. Literally the same metrics. Think about if a player goes in and play, like Mergen's daily play times could be anywhere from to 40 minutes. So if a player is playing this mini game for 5 minutes and not playing the other, so not adding that 5 minutes as an increment, but instead that time takes up time from other places. That's a great KPI to look at, and it's so easy to measure it. So things like that. So I don't know if many folks are doing that. I know guys like Playrix are always actively experimenting with that, to some massive successes. I just don't know if really changing core gameplay is really the way to go. We're definitely experimenting with it.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, what you were saying about you have that audience then, right? You don't have to go acquire users at all. If you throw something out into the store in hyper casual style, like either you do have to do a little bit of spend to get it in front of people, or you hope it's organic. Yeah. But you have an audience, and they are your target audience, right? So,
and if they're cannibalizing, that's the issue. If they cannibalize,
that's the issue, so, right? Yeah, don't want that. Things to weigh, I suppose, when making these kinds of decisions.
Well, we haven't talked about UA. Like, a lot of these games, a lot of casual games are using kind of misleads. And it's interesting that they're using misleads for absolutely terrible, stupid pin games or whatever. Yeah. And then the audience doesn't care that those pin games are actually not part of the experience. It's a very interesting kind of situation where do you actually follow up on your misleads and actually make something for those players? There's this whole thing with pimple popping.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so and that's interesting because there's a Merge studio out there that leveraged that pretty heavily. I mean, we started with Merge, and we have the home design game as well. But it's like, I hate having these conversations where it's like, should we actually do like a pimple popping mini game? And it's like, I don't know.
I mean, it mystifies me that it actually works. Like, well, pimple popping aside, like the pin games, like I had it one time with that game Top War that they showed me a misleading ad that it was, you had these cool islands that you could merge together or something like that. I don't know. I thought that looked pretty fun. Tapped on it, saw the game wasn't it, and I uninstalled that extremely quickly because I almost felt a bit insulted by it. But I guess players have
I don't think you're the core player.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
But you know what? I think in the long run, it won't be working just as fine as right now because, as I try to explain to myself, right now the hyper casual audience is very wide and it continues to grow. But then there is process of maturing and the hyper casual audience becomes casual audience. And so that's the moment where you can catch them up using the misleads and just put them right in your game. But at some point, there will be enough casual players already transformed from hyper casual ones. And they will be mature enough, I mean, from the game experience perspective, to know what they want. And then the CPIs will go up. And this whole mislead mystery will just fade away. Or at least that's what I hope for.
I mean, dude, like, Gardenscapes, they're still doing that.
It's crazy.
I think I've seen I've seen some kind of an article recently with Nexters because they were like one of the first guys to try this approach, and they were saying, you know what, we shouldn't call it misleading. We should call it like secondary gameplay or non-primarily gameplay or like I don't know, process identical to gameplay but not gameplay. But it is so strange.
I mean, I think it's you're setting the mood for what's in the game. In a sense.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want a good target audience with good retention, with good LTV, you want to target them with with something that inside your game. We've been discussing it with Yes the last time. And, well, first of all, there are some laws out there for advertising, like in real life. You can't advertise steak in McDonald's.
Yeah, at what point does it become false advertising? That's kind of where I wonder about the legal questions there. Yeah.
I think you're showing the themes of your game in an artsy way, and like I'm fine with that. I mean, the thing is, Misleads are not going to give you. They're going to give you a % of good users, and if you have no other channels, that's what you have to go to. And like we leverage it. Some of them are really funny. I mean, also you can't discount that this is just hooks and funny stuff.
Yeah, that's mostly what it is, and shouldn't take it too personally, I guess. Like if it's not exactly what it says in the tin. But cool. Let's shift for a moment, a bit more to the story of original games, and of course, it's one of your entrepreneurial endeavors. But you have 2 merge games. Could you speak a little bit about like how that came to be? Merge in, we've talked about a bit. We haven't talked that much about merge dum. So what's the deal there?
So merge them was a roll up. So it's an acquisition where we had an opportunity. Bigger Games was shifting focus on a kind of a different genre, and they were really I mean, even on the calls, I could tell the senior management and just the game teams were torn between these 2 products, where they wanted to give love to one, but if you look at the metrics, they weren't doing it. So we were able to acquire it, and the goal there is like these games are basically the same. At the core, they're the same. They have a very limited meta. Merge them has a really weird art style that for some reason works, so that's fine. It has a core of decorating, which is another kind of staple casual. But the core values of the games are the same. So whatever successes we have with Merge In, we plan to bring over. And luckily, the state of Merge Them, the code was great. And usually developers just say, "Hey, we just got to rewrite this, and then it'll work." That was not the case. A couple things we had to change, some architectural things. It's been taking time, of course. But I think a successful roll up in 3 months is like industry leading.
Wow!
So we were able to get the game working back at the same way it was when it was managed. By Bigger, and plan is just to improve it. A lot of this live ops stuff that we're saying, I think that's going to be going in there soon. I mean, when we started the conversation, I said, is this investor facing or is this game dev facing? And like investors love to throw around cross promotion. Cross promotion is really hard. So we've had successes with it. My idea is so what's interesting with cross promotion on Merge, and this could be like a interesting item not many know, is like the churn is basically none. Players love having both games, at least these games. So we're very happy just kind of aggressively pushing cross promotion because we're seeing that players are not leaving either game. They're just playing both. And that's good. Will that work at scale? I think that's the bigger question.
Interesting. Yeah, that's something that makes a lot of sense to me, actually. Like if my, what would you call them? Containers? If my containers are on cooldown in one game, then I can just swap over to my other favorite Merge game and play there, right?
Yeah.
But I think
hopefully you buy
the interesting part is, are they monetized in both of the games if they begin playing them? Or they, for example, they continue to pay in the first game, and the second is rather for playing itself.
I mean, it's, we have 16 different segments on players, so some players will just pay everywhere. There's some players that are paying, but they're going to leave, and that's where the opportunities are. I mean, the situation where I have 2 hours to play, and I'm done with the free stuff in this game and go to that game. That's not the best situation to be in, but of course, if that's the case, please play my other game. It's definitely more appealing.
I mean, they're still in your ecosystem, right? They still are within that bubble. And then, as you were saying, live ops can start to bring in more and more reasons to play, to want to stay.
So, and we didn't talk about kind of web stores, because that may be kind of a future tactic as part of live ops, is like, imagine you have like, so Supercell does have the Supercell ID where they have, I think the store is just unified. I don't know if that will work so well with casual, but on the other hand, if you can get a package that gives you a bonus between the two games, that's really cool. I mean, that's going to take a lot of back end work, but definitely something I think everyone's going to be exploring. We're exploring.
Nice. So now that you're talking a little bit more about the future, of what the future could hold, let's move into that big topic, I suppose. And let's start with the problem that we see in Merge. Would love to hear your point of view on that. So the core gameplay is great. We talked about the motivations that drive players to do it, and you actually gave us that insight that churn is really, really low when it comes to if people are playing more than one. But long-term retention seems, from the outside, like I don't work in Merge super deeply, but Stan and I kind of identified that as a potential problem area for the genre. How do you see that?
Right. So I think the long-term retention is the kind of North Star of what you got to fix. And of course, long-term retention, I'm looking at that as like 2 years, more than 1 year, because that's what will make an extremely successful casual game, is if you can get that 2-year retention. I don't think anyone's really figured it out. Of course, it's a very practical problem, right? Your board fills up. So, but if you give a new board, hey, all your content, all your progress is gone. So, different ways of solving it. I think no one's really solved it perfectly. I think the key is the game is a platform for mergey things. There could be a narrative. Mergent does have a narrative. Every level that you pass, every episode that you pass, there's a little bit of a story that you're told. So that might be enough for some folks. Some folks want to see if grandma killed grandpa or whatever. But then there's live ops that, you engage with other folks. So again, like I came from Machine Zone, and the power of having, like, if you guys have ever played Mobile Strike or Game of War or the Final Fantasy games, it's like there's not much to look at. And like, I think, the Final Fantasy IP can't even be wasted on that. Why can't they just do a generic one, right? But it's all about social, and social with mid-core games is very different from casual. But we have social, and we see that folks are interacting, and like the really hardcore people that live ops will focus on are doing social. So one long-term way could be pushing the social to be much more significant. And I think that's a good answer to the problem. It's going to take a lot of time.
Interesting. I like what you say, that it's a platform for mergey things, and I think that's the right way to look at it, in the sense that if you're too laser focused that no, it needs to be this and it needs to be what it is today into the future, then you're kind of missing the opportunity to move more towards a platform where people come for more than one reason. That's also why social is a thing, right? Like, you want to interact with other people. It's not just that you're there to play Merge. You also want to have that social experience. I was gonna say, like, don't be fooled that, I mean, you work with social casino stuff. Like, those people definitely do not want a social experience in some cases, but many social casino experiences, including Coin Master, that's arguably a social casino experience, is social. Absolutely. Extremely.
But so. It's not in the same way that an FPS is, and that's just a very, very important line to kind of not get over.
Right.
Yeah.
I had one follow-up though, just from game design curiosity. You were saying the big problem is the board. Can you just share some fun anecdotes of like things you tried with your team to brainstorm on, of like how to solve that problem that just didn't work out? Or
I'm sure everyone that's looked at this seriously all had the same ideas, and I think my role as kind of head of product at the company, that's what I focus on, is just saying, guys, this is not a direction that we should pursue right now, just given the time. I mean, like, my best solution is that there has to be several boards. Mm-hmm. But then how do you make that appealing and not feel like you're losing progress? Decreasing the size of the tiles is not so good. Increasing just the size of the board, I think it's going to be too confusing. I mean, I think the craziest one that our product owner was saying was like, we need to sell a board. So you have another board that's sold, but like you have to switch to it. And you could sell these boards, and then players could switch to them and continue the progress. I just think that will create such havoc on kind of the UI. Imagine you have like 3 boards and
and then you merge them.
Yeah, merging
actually
boards.
Maybe we should do that. The boards merge. The boards unmerge.
It's a platform for mergy things, man. Arseny, you said it yourself.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, just like the Scapes games are platforms for Match-3 things, matchy things.
Definitely.
That's what it's turned into. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, just like a quick fire question here about the kinds of monetization that you see in Merge and what you think works best. How do you guys approach it? Are you like pure in-app purchase? You use some admon? Is there a hybrid situation, or what do you think is the best?
So, and this is like, we could have an hour on this. The point
Maybe
is
not that quick fire then. Go for it.
we do hybrid. We're very good at ads. We're very good at identifying places where you can say, hey, you watch this video. We're very good at that. We have really good engagement on rewarded video. The problem is those incremental views, CPM drops, and it's like it's not a linear drop. At some point it's. So of course you want to leverage IEP. Folks that are more into the game, longer term players are going to be kind of IEP driven, and that's just a fact of life. I think. I mean, it makes sense. If you like something, you'll pay. If you're not ever paying, you're probably not super engaged. So we're managing both. We finally got it to be 50-50 IEP ads. That was our big kind of milestone at the beginning of this month on Merge In. So if you guys are App Magic customers and you're looking at our data, please just multiply it by 2 or 3 to get our revenue data. But so having said that, like the deeper funnel of this, the iceberg is ad monetization gives you a CPM for the user upon first ad request. So therefore, if I'm seeing that a player has, is getting ads for significantly higher CPM than another player, that player is most likely a whale. So in the first hour, I can identify a whale. That's incredible. No, like that hasn't happened in games. The old guard, the grandfathers, they're still buying on IEP, and there's this opportunity that we can identify with some degree of certainty whales, just folks that are like, this guy's rich, he must have spent something at some point, or she, right? So there's something very appealing about keeping ad revenue as a monetization method, just because also there's a way to buy against knowing that data so early. That's an argument for keeping it.
That's a really good one. So like using your ad revenue information to identify different groups of players, different cohorts, it's really great.
Very clever.
I mean, I think that's standard, and I just wish more. Is AppLove in here? Where's Iron Source? Get your systems so you can finally buy against ad revenue in a smart way. The problem, of course, is with these privacy things that our overlords at the platforms are doing are hampering that, or hampering the ability to kind of use that.
Yeah, does that change your calculus on monetization in the future, or do you just see this kind of identification that you're able to do as a nice benefit at the moment?
It's part of it. I mean, the other point is with rewarded videos or ads, your ROAS grows much faster, and that's also, I mean, that could be kind of a false flag. We have a PLTV model that looks at every player out to a year, and it factors ad revenue. So, I mean, it's all good. Again, it's, thin ice in some cases. You got to be careful. And I think the future of mobile will always have hybrid monetization. IEP will always be there, but, if you can get the first layer of everyone doing ads, that's also interesting. And it opens up how you can do UA.
Gotcha.
I think just in the previous episode, we were talking with the head of publishing from Voodoo, and that's just what he was talking about. They decided to switch the whole company from the in-app monetization to hybrid. They've been experimenting for 2 years straight, and like half a year, they finally cracked it, and right now they try with each and every game inside their portfolio, and for new games as well, they try to use the hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
Yeah.
They're all about cash. My
That is
favorite.
true. Well, at the same time, going on for the cash, it really brings very good insights, very strategic decisions that are wise, and this is good.
That's not a bad thing. Games are a business at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I mean, but it is a business, and folks are willing to pay, just like casinos are. But I mean, the other end of the day is that, hey, like, it makes people happy, and it is an escape in some cases, even if it's a stupid mouse with its cooking, for other animals.
There you go.
I think that's why a lot of us are in the business, because we're affecting people in very, very simple ways. And I mean, some of the reviews we get or some of the customer service emails are really like, some people are in a hospital or something, and they're like, your game is the only game that gets me through the day, and I can't get
Wow.
up. So I'm like, I have nothing to do except play your game. And it's like, thank you.
That's amazing. So I think that's totally right, and I think it's well said as well. We're here in this industry to give people those experiences, and it's amazing that you guys are getting that kind of feedback. So, what does the future hold for you and original games, but also for Merge as a genre? Where do you see it going, and how do you see those experiences changing in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the genre is going away. I mean, we didn't talk about this. One of the reasons that I think it's going away is guys that are spending crazy. They're basically teaching everyone how to play these games. Because, like, yeah, I'll be the first to say that our first-time user experience, we need to work on that shit. Like, we just don't have the time. That's a lot of work, and that's a lot of time. But thankfully, Merge Mansion already taught everyone how to play.
Right.
So that's really good. I think someone's going to figure out how to do it. What is the right mix, and then of course everyone's going to first copy, and then everyone's going to innovate. And I don't think it's going away. I mean, for original games, like, we're at heart a casual company, and there's a couple genres that I'm really interested in that are also not Match-3. So I'd love to have the time to do that. We have a third unannounced game, and I don't know when we can even announce it based on legal stuff. So doing that, it's also a merge genre. But hopefully next year we'll do some maybe buy another game and do something original outside of merge.
Nice. That's very exciting.
Sounds
Well,
good, yeah.
Super. I think that kind of brings us to a nice kind of like closing point. Stan, I'll pass it to you for any final questions you may have for Arseny.
Yeah, sure thing. There is one final question we usually ask our guests and us as well. So usually it's about 3 games, but I think for this episode we can just narrow it down to one. So what one game will you recommend right now? It might be a game that you really love. It might be a game that you've played recently. Any game that you want to talk about. So Arseny, if you can take the lead.
How deep do we go?
Anything.
Well,
maybe
yeah.
mobile.
Is this like...
Well, it can be mobile, it can be PC, consoles, it can be
Okay,
a
fine.
game like
I'll do
from
it.
30
I'll do
years
it. I don't
ago.
care.
Actually, go for
All
it.
right.
Go for it.
Yeah.
This is what you got to do. Guys, this is what you got to do. You got to download GZ Doom.
Okay.
Then you got to
GZ Doom.
find this mod. You got to find this mod called myhouse.wad. You might need to buy Doom 2 on Steam, and then you're going to be in for a ride.
Okay. Amazing.
My house, this came out in March. And I'm recommending this to everybody. myhouse.wad.
Okay. All right. This is
I'm
interesting.
literally holding a pen and writing it down.
I'm already
myhouse.wad,
typing
yeah.
it into Google at the moment. So do you want to tell us anything about this ride, or is it just something you want people to experience?
It's like you have to. I'm into modding, and like once every X years, some insane modder does all of these steps. So like, if you even follow this guy on the forum, he started posting about this, like, I think years ago. And I don't know if it was all like a grand scheme or if it was just like, how do I make this kind of work? But basically it looks like an old level that that a kid in high school made, but it goes really deep, and it has this whole liminal spaces meme thing, like backrooms. I just thought I was floored when I played this. I thought it was going to be something really simple, but I mean, it's kind of, I don't know how to describe it. You got to check it out. And then the other one that I would say is like, I've been, if you're into hardcore survival and I'm not, I was playing Stalker Anomaly, which is like, they took the 3 Stalker games and made this crazy mod out of them, and it's completely free to play. It has no manual, so you kind of have to figure things out yourself. But if you're into really hardcore survival, Stalker Anomaly is freaking good one. What about you guys? What are your go-tos?
Go ahead, Stan.
Yes.
You get to go first.
Okay. So I think my first one will be pretty not obvious, but not as extravagant as yours, Arseny. So I recently began playing God of War Ragnarok, and it's a really good game. So I really love the narrative. I mean, from the core gameplay perspective, it's just almost the clone of the first one. Nothing special there, but I really love how they use the storytelling mechanics, how they build the characters, how they build the relationship between the characters, how they use the throwbacks to the first game and to the original series as well. So, I mean, from the storyline point of view, that's something that really, really shines. And also, there is another game. I haven't played it myself, but I've seen the person right next to me playing it like for, I think, 200 hours straight. And that is something like, when I'm looking at games like that, I'm thinking, wow, that's a big game with lots of mechanics. I will never play it. Okay, not in this life. So that's Persona 5. It's very like yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, but it is the thing. So it is the visual side, the music. I really love the music, and I think I can just from the top of my mind recognize half of the tunes from the different stores and different battlegrounds there right now. And I really love the depth of the game. So this whole Pokemon mechanic with the RPG and living the ordinary life combined. That's, I think, one of the things Eastern developers, they really shine with it. And here in the Western market, we do not have much games like that. So that's an interesting experience.
Cool. All right, I'll finish it up. Arseny, I'm inspired by your super deep cuts. I don't know if I can make the cuts as deep, but a really quirky, special game that I'm super inspired by is Baba Is You.
Yeah.
It's okay. Because like I was inspired to name that one, Arseny, because you were like, just download it and play it, and like the least amount of explanation, the better. It's just the kind of game you want to put in someone's hands and then watch them experience figuring it out, which is quite fun. And yeah, for a second one, I'll just be totally honest. I'm loving the newest expansion of World of Warcraft, Dragonflight, and this is like showing my
Oh my god.
my age as a gamer, I guess. I don't know, but like I just love it. It's been my game since I was a kid, and they finally added a support class, which is pretty. So the cool thing is that it's like the game is really old, big. It has this massive, community of players behind it. They simulate everything about the game. They've min-maxed it within an inch of its life. Yet the developers were brave enough to release this new character archetype that is like throwing the Holy Trinity on its head. It's just not a pure DPS. It does something else. It supports its allies.
That's cool.
Which I really like, and I've been watching lots of content about it, and it has a lot of the more hardcore players out there scratching their heads, and there's an interview with a game designer I watched yesterday where he's just trying to explain to the guy, no, we're taking this in a new direction. This is a new thing, and I think it's really brave of the developers over there. So I tip my hat to them, and we'll be playing that character, I guess, from now on. But yeah, those are my games. Yeah.
Super old game, and it's great that they're still doing stuff with it.
Doing new stuff. Also, the dragon riding mechanic is just like, it just makes me so happy. It's like game designers putting new shit in that's really fun. It's just fun, Good stuff. Anyways, I guess that brings us to the end of this conversation. Arseny, I want to thank you. Stan, I'll pass it over to you to do the signing off, but this was a great conversation. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Very fun. A bunch of nerds.
Yeah, it was good, right?
Exactly. It was
good
great.
fun.
Well, I think one of the best discussions we had so far. So, guys out there, thank you for listening to us. Thank you for looking at us, like t-shirt bunch. And see you next episode. Take care. Good luck. Have fun.
Thank you, Arseny.
Bye, guys.
All right.